It is midday in the Queen City. Business is booming. We've got updates on data center plans and innovation in Ohio, a local history and future plans. Let's do lunch. Cincinnati is a city that means business. Fortune 500 company HQs, renowned institutions like Children's Hospital and the Cincinnati Zoo, and letters that everyone here knows: TQL, GE, CVG, UC, and X. It's also a city that's large enough for new ideas to take root and grow. You know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, and you're in business. I'm Jack Crumley, and this is The Working Lunch. Hello, welcome to The Working Lunch. I'm Jack Crumley. This is our hour-long business show here on The Crown, where we bring you headlines about local companies. We bring you exclusive interviews with local leaders, and we try to squeeze in a bite to eat, maybe something to drink before you go back to face the afternoon. Thanks for watching. Cincinnati business headlines today, presented by First State Bank. Built on belief and committed to doing right by our communities, First State Bank offers checking, savings, and mortgage services all from your phone. They believe in this community and they believe in you. Visit FSB4me.com. That's First State Bank, member FDIC, and equal housing lender. Some AI updates for you today. You're going to start here. The Portsmouth Gaseous Diffusion Plant, east of here in southern Ohio, was a big uranium enrichment facility in Piketon, built back in the 50s for defense in the Cold War. It initially made weapons-grade uranium, but then shifted to commercial nuclear power in the 60s. It was shut down in 2001. The feds have been among those spending decades cleaning up the thousands of acres of land. And there was a groundbreaking there earlier this year for a massive natural gas power plant and plans for an AI data center to go on that spot. The budget on that from SB Energy reportedly north of $1 trillion. Now, the update is from OpenAI. OpenAI has announced a deal that'll create 35,000 construction jobs there in a big build-out of that campus. OpenAI is securing 8 gigawatts of IT electric power, working with other partners, including NVIDIA and the Department of Energy. OpenAI says in a statement that has a number of M dashes in it, that it wants to develop this project as a partner to Pike County, paying for energy and infrastructure costs, using water responsibly, creating opportunities for local businesses, and more. Along with 35,000 construction jobs, it is expecting 2,500 long-term operating positions and a $40 million investment in a community grant fund on top of $40 million coming from SB Energy. All that along with giving Ohio college students access to ChatGPT. OpenAI says it will have meetings with local leaders, schools, businesses, and community groups in Pike County as time goes on. They're saying this will be a long-term conversation. Meantime, a bit closer to home in Butler County, the city of Trenton is negotiating now with Amazon for a $5 billion data center on farmland located along Wayne-Madison Road. That is near a Duke Energy substation and a natural gas power plant. The city of Trenton already has approved annexation of the property to avoid a local moratorium, but Amazon Web Services still has to get approval on site plans, utilities, and permits. This would be a hyperscale data center, which by definition would use more than 100 megawatts of electricity. That's the equivalent of 80,000 homes, which is more than 5 times the population of the city of Trenton. Prologis is also planning a data center called Project Mila, not far away from there. We know that there are arguments in favor of these projects in terms of jobs and revenue, but many people who live in the areas that we're talking about have been speaking out against them over concerns about electric rates, water usage, and noise. It is worth noting that just yesterday, Axios ran an exclusive report saying that the Republican Party has sent a private memo to top AI companies nationwide saying that public opinion on data centers is severely hampering hampering the party's chances in a number of races, including John Husted trying to win his Senate race against Sherrod Brown. A grassroots group called Conserve Ohio has been pushing a statewide constitutional amendment that would ban new large-scale data centers. They are trying to get that on the 2027 ballot. Moving on to Jack's Big Bite. That's where we focus on one particular story or topic in our community. A community we believe in with our partners at First State Bank. Stop into one of their local branches or visit online at fsb4me.com to access all the helpful tools and services at First State Bank. Built on belief and committed to doing right by our communities. For today's Big Bite, presented by First State Bank, we're talking Cincinnati innovation, or Cinovation, if you will, and I wish you would. America is 250 years old, and Cincinnati's been around for more than 230 of those years. We have talked before about Cincinnati's history going back a couple of centuries with wine and pork. But there has been a lot of innovation as well, a lot of firsts here when it comes to businesses and more. We are going to start with a biggie. Hit that. Professional baseball started in this city back in 1869 when the Cincinnati Red Stockings made their debut. Baseball was not invented here as a sport, but fittingly for a Cincinnati business show, this is where the guys went pro. The Cincinnati Baseball Club was founded in 1866 and joined the National Association of Baseball Players, or NABBP, in 1867. Much of that team made up of cricket players, and it was player Harry Wright who proudly told the press that the guys on his team were getting paid. Imagine all the late 1800s pearl clutching with such a statement. Cincinnati enclosed the field that they were playing on, so people had to pay to watch the games. Other clubs then followed suit. The NABBP in 1869 realized that rosters were made up of paid players, so they gave the green light to that in that same year. Along those same lines, it was Cincinnati that established the first fully paid professional fire department in America, officially organizing in 1853. Before that, most cities relied on volunteer groups. In terms of products that were innovated and made here, let's go back in time.
A fun factory. Let's have a Play-Doh party. Yeah! Huh? A shooting star.
You can have a Play-Doh party anytime with the Play-Doh Fun Factory.
I made spaghetti. Fire. Make a hose. No, it's a snake. I want your spaghetti. He got the spaghetti.
By yourself or with the gang, you can have a Play-Doh party.
It's fun.
The Play-Doh Fun Factory toy comes with everything you see here.
Play-Doh started as a household cleaning product back in the 30s. Of course, now we're getting to the point where we have to specify that means 1930s. The Cuddle Product Company invented it to clean coal residue that used to collect on walls, although it did have a different name. Cuddle was the biggest wallpaper cleaner maker, but when coal stopped being the main fuel to heat homes, the company was in trouble. The owner of that company was Cleo McVicker, and his son, Joseph, was trying to turn things around in the 1950s when he got word from his sister-in-law, who was a nursery school teacher, telling him that kids in her class liked to use the non-toxic dough to make shapes. It was Kay Zufall herself who named it Play-Doh. Also in products for kids, Uno came from Reading in 1971 as Barber. Merle Robbins came up with a game for his family that was fun for the kids and the grown-ups. Mattel told the Inquirer back in 2021 that Uno sells 17 decks every minute worldwide. Another store shelf mainstay that was invented and innovated here.
It's out there again, waiting. Allergy season, but allergies don't have to be a big problem. Not with fast-acting Benadryl, the most prescribed allergy medication ever.
Benadryl, real name diphenhydramine, was discovered in 1943 by chemist George Revishkel and his student Fred Huber at the University of Cincinnati as they were searching for muscle relaxants. Partnering with Park Davis, it won FDA approval as the first prescription antihistamine in 1946 and later shifted to over-the-counter status in the 80s. We have talked about Cincinnati's manufacturing history on the show before, but we've only alluded a little bit to how Procter & Gamble really got started making its name. In the late 1800s, bathing in rivers wasn't all that unusual, and chemist James Gamble came up with a gentle soap using cottonseed oil, which was cheaper, and that concoction had a bar that floated. The story goes that Harry Procter was in church trying to come up with a name for that soap, and that's when he heard Psalm 45, verse 8. All thy garments smell of myrrh and aloes and cassia out of ivory palaces, whereby they have made thee glad. So that's how Cincinnati invented and marketed ivory soap, cleanliness, of course, being next to godliness. One more of these before we go, innovated in Cincinnati. Lots of companies started here, including, now that is an internal company map from the Kenner Toy Company back in 1973, posted on KennerCollector.com. Has a really nice history of things. The toy company that made Star Wars action figures and more started on Kenner Street near Union Terminal back in the 1940s. The Steiner brothers were working there, and as packages being sent between designers and manufacturing from all those buildings you saw on that map were being shipped between those buildings and Kenner Street, messengers eventually just knew where to go after a while if the box just said Kenner on it. It took Kenner 28 years to hit its first $100 million in sales. Thanks to Star Wars, it doubled that figure to break $200 million just in 1978. And by 1985, Kenner had sold over 300 million Star Wars action figures alone. It wasn't just a one-hit wonder with Star Wars either. Kenner did the Easy Bake Oven in 1963, the Spirograph in 1966. It got Play-Doh in 1970. There was Stretch Armstrong in 1976, and both Strawberry Shortcake and Care Bears toys came out in the early 80s. That is a Cincinnati company becoming the third largest toy company in the country. All these innovations, products, sports teams, entire companies take imagination and drive. They also need belief, and from belief, investment. People willing to put their money where their mouths are. Jill Meyer is the Chief Operating and Relationships Officer for Ohio High Growth Investment Opportunities, the Ohio Fund. And she's my guest when we return. We got to take a break. You're watching The Working Lunch on The Crown. Stick around. This will be fun.
This Cincinnati has felt like home since day one.
James Rapine, Jacob Tissett, Paul Fritz, Jack Crumley.
The wait is over.
Nat Drive, that's the Working Lunch.
Built for this city.
What is The Crown? It's simple, really. Authentic Cincinnati entertainment. Not hot takes from a studio 3 states away. Not national noise pretending to know this city. Rather, bringing a voice to those who call the Queen City home. Where can I watch The Crown shows? Join us live from 7 to 11 a.m. for First Word and 12 to 1 for The Working Lunch on RESN. No live TV? No problem. Stream and interact with all of our content on major podcast, broadcast, and streaming platforms. The Crown is Cincinnati. Loud, passionate, competitive, proud. From early morning sports debates to the business leaders shaping the riverfront, to the fans, stories, moments, and culture that make this place move. Live shows, podcasts, documentaries, digital content built from Cincinnati, for Cincinnati. This is The Crown.
Our beliefs matter. They're reflected in our words and actions. At First State Bank, we believe in treating people well, and have since 1884. Listening, caring, looking out for each other. It's what people deserve. It's what a real local bank does. While lots of things have changed over the years, our belief in you hasn't. First State Bank, built on belief.
Welcome back to the Working Lunch. I'm Jack Crumley. I am joined now by the Chief Operating and Relationships Officer with the Ohio Fund that we alluded to before we went to break, Jill Meyer, former President and CEO of the Cincinnati Regional Chamber. And, you know, Jill, I got to just address this right away and get this out of the way. You were actually the one who went tumbling down the hill, and I just came following after. You were the one that innovated that move, and I appreciate that.
But we've known each other a long time either way, Jack. So we've cleared that. The air is clear.
I appreciate it. So, you know, we started off by talking about innovation that comes out of this area specifically, and I thought that would be an interesting table setter for what you guys do with the Ohio Fund. If you can explain to people, what is the Ohio Fund?
Yeah, sure. Happy to do that. The Ohio Fund is a unique approach to private fundraising and private investing. And the short story is I and my three partners launched this private fund advisor to raise private capital, so private investors putting capital together for us to invest in Ohio companies that are growing and real estate and infrastructure projects. So it's really looking at all of the enormous amount of economic activity that's happening in Ohio and saying, hey, can we match Ohio investor money with Ohio growth economic projects so that we both can help these companies grow and stay here, but also the returns from that growth is going back to Ohioans.
Yeah, that's it's investing in the area. It's betting on Ohio, betting on the ability for this state to be a growth and a springboard for all these different company ideas. Where did this idea come from?
The idea, I'll give you two different answers, but they're one and the same. So my partner, Mark Kwame, who is up in the central Ohio area, it's really his idea, but he was inspired by a fund in Singapore called the Temasek Fund. Okay. And if you and I talk about Singapore and what that is today, we can picture it, right? It's sure. Glitzy, it's tall towers, it's a very orderly, very wealthy country. Singapore was a third world country about 50 years ago, and their government did something interesting, and they started a sovereign wealth fund and investing in themselves. Mm-hmm. And they get a lot of credit for what Singapore has become. A little point of fun fact is that the portfolio that they pulled together at the Temasek Fund in the mid-'70s was worth $180 million. That fund today is worth almost $500 billion.
Good grief.
And so there's a model. This works. Yeah. And if we can replicate even a part of that in Ohio, which we think we can, what a neat story and a neat inspiration to repeat here in Ohio.
No, that's tremendous. A big difference with what Singapore did versus what you guys are doing. Sounds like the Singaporean idea was that public funding? Was that was tax dollars or whatever, versus you guys, this is a private investment. Yeah, this is a very big distinction because a sovereign wealth fund is, in fact, what you say, it's the government. Mm-hmm. We've gone the opposite direction. We have great government resources and a lot of good partners, but what we know to be true is that
There is a lot of wealth, a lot of investor appetite, and a lot of really innovative things happening across the state. And so if you look at what Ohio is doing right now, we're just closing in on having a $1 trillion economy.
Yeah.
That's a lot happening. We have a diverse economy. That's always been the case across the state because we have 3 major metros and a number of second-tier metros and then some. So just a lot of different business activity happening that organically is already growing. And so we're betting on what has made Ohio a powerhouse in the past will also make it an even bigger powerhouse heading into the future. And doing that with Ohioans' investments on the private sector is just icing on the cake.
Yeah, I know every state sort of has their own pros and cons, and look how diverse we are. But in terms of Ohio, just from a zoomed out look, we've talked a lot on this show about Cincinnati and the role that the river played in this area geographically. You've got Columbus as another major metro area that's very centrally located, a lot of farmland around there, and then all the industry that built up along Lake Erie in the Cleveland area. Those are 3 different sort of categories of here's what can grow.
Very different economies, very different cultures in those 3 cities. And what we also know to be true, one of my partners is in Cleveland, one's in Central Ohio, and then 2 of us are down here, Mike Venerable and myself. What we know to be true is if we can get more private investors and private developers and private business people connecting with folks in other cities, that we can make those economics grow maybe bigger, faster.
So yeah, so much of this is going to be intros and relationships, right? Finding somebody that you never would have known about had this then not existed.
Yeah, building that network out so that we're strategically placing, folks who like to invest in real estate with some great real estate developers, or people who really love fintech companies with some great engineers who are building fintech. So they're all different varieties, and there are 12 million people in Ohio, and so that's a lot of introductions that can be made and a lot of good to come from that. But first and foremost, we're betting on, we like to say we're bullish on Ohio. I always follow that with, we're not doing this because we love Ohio. We're doing it because we see what's happening economically, and we know it's a really good investment.
Yeah, and in terms of, this is a statewide operation that you guys are doing, but in terms of some local funds that have really been noteworthy recently, you got 1872, which is the metal manufacturing outfit that just announced recently in Camp Washington. There's a picture there about some of that operation. That is a robotic metal fabricating company from some SpaceX engineers.
Yeah, it's a great Cincinnati story, actually. It's robotic welding from start to finish, which, think of automation from the very beginning until you have finished product. That's not happening anywhere. And that takes vision for sure. It takes things going in that direction, but then to have the phenomenal leadership of our founder and CEO is a SpaceX alum, and he reached out and brought along the other 2 founders who are also SpaceX alums, and then they've recruited some phenomenal talent across the board. That happening in Ohio, in Cincinnati, is a phenomenal story because it plays on what we've always done well, manufacturing. We've always done that here, but it's taking a page, frankly, writing a page of the future book with Dan, who loves to tell the story. Dan Summers, the CEO. He married another SpaceX engineer from Cincinnati. And when they had their second kid, he said, apparently that's what you do is you move back home to Cincinnati. It's a great Cincinnati story, and we're really excited about what they're building over there and great things to come.
One other Cincinnati company that the Ohio Fund was a part of was Remote Vans, This is an outfit that was born out of COVID, I remember reading.
Yes.
These are adventure-based vans. That's part of their announcement of being part of the Inc. 5000, which is one of the fastest growing private companies. I think they increased, what's my note on that say, more than 1,000% in 3 years. These are like smaller RVs, right? To have nice vans that you take out for adventures.
Absolutely. They're the Sprinter vans. They get them in and they outfit them top notch. A lot of chat. In fact, earlier today, I saw somebody posted on LinkedIn, somebody in the industry, that the remote vans are easily the best vans on the market right now. They're on a tear. They're growing. The quality is phenomenal, and they're being rewarded for that. The taking the time and the foresight to do it right and to make sure that they're highly connected anywhere you take them, and just a comfortable place for people who like to do that adventure vanning.
And those are two companies that the Ohio Fund invested in early on. What, outside of the relationship and introduction element of what we just talked about, what is the process? Is there a nomination time? Is there a certain window? Do you guys have a busy season? How exactly does the process work?
So we made our first investment a little over 2 years ago, and I would tell you, yes, it's a busy season since then. So we don't really have a season. But we have happily, we have a very full continuous flow of deals that we're looking at constantly. And regardless, where are they in the state? What industry are they in? Colleagues are driving all over the state. You meet folks. It's different every time. We don't have a standard, here's our process. You have to do 1, 2, and 3. But it's like any other process. You learn about it, you meet them. At the end of the day, you're really investing in the founders, right? The leaders of the company. It can be a great idea, but you have to couple that with folks who can pull this off.
Sure.
And so spending time with the humans and knowing them, understanding what makes them tick, and then figuring out where are the opportunities for growth and how we can come in then and provide that, not just with capital, but with expertise or with connections into the network or any other variety of ways that you can help a company grow. And
is it the kind of thing where like the members, you and the other members of the fund, like take a vote, or is this just individual? Hey, I like what you have to do. Let's talk.
Yeah, we do have a process on the backside that once as we're filtering through, we have a whole investment process that they go through on the diligence front, and then when they get to a certain point, they come to an investment committee. And that investment committee has to agree altogether that company A, B, and C are going to be ones that we would invest in.
Okay, so you being involved in this fund and being the chief operating and relationships officer, what is it? I mean, are there certain criteria or elements that you're looking for when you're meeting these people and learning about different ideas?
Yeah, I mean, I would say we are unique in that we have a much wider berth of what we'll look at. We're multi-asset, so some groups will only invest in venture, some will only invest in real estate, some will only invest in private equity. We do a little bit of everything, and that's by design because we know what's growing in Ohio. We know how to make this work, and so that's a little bit of a different filter. And when we're looking through that filter, if we're looking at companies that are earlier stage, so more venture, although in the growth mode, we look at them frankly and say, can this be $1 billion company? And if we believe it can be, then that moves on to the next round of investing, which is very exciting. If you look at some of the more mature companies, maybe they've been around for 20, 30, 50 or more years. It's really looking at the market, where the market's going, what's the technology, how are they implementing to get from where they are now to where they think they can be, and that's a one where I'll come back to what I said about betting on the people.
Yeah.
Really believing in leadership, and they know their industry, they know what they can do and where their soft spots are.
Yeah, and where the soft spots are, and being able to try to see headwinds and clouds on the horizon, because I mean, at the end of the day, we are talking about an investment fund. You got inherent risk going on with this, which, that can be always trying to be aware of what could happen and taking a chance. This is you're dealing with risk all the time.
Yeah, and anytime you're investing, it's risk, it's high risk, and so that's part of every equation for us.
In terms of the idea, though, that something, we were talking on the phone yesterday about what something can be good without lasting forever, and tying the idea in with risk and what that means, and learning from things and moving on. That's all sort of part of the process.
Yeah. I mean, thanks for the reminder on that. Every company shouldn't be a 100-year company, frankly. Companies have, for some of them, a life cycle. Maybe they master what they were intended to do very well, but something else catches their eye, or there's an extension business that makes more sense into the future. And so, we've looked at lots of those opportunities and have frankly invested in some of those opportunities where what we did 10 years ago is not what we're going to be doing in 10 years in the future, and we're part of helping to make that transition happen.
How often do you see that, where people that either own a company or have an idea for a product are able to see that far down the line for themselves, that this, what we're doing now, may not even be what we're looking to do in 10 years? Is that a rarity?
I would say it's no secret that a lot of founders are serial founders. So there are a lot of men and women out there who their brains are just wired to know what they can do right now, but to know that there's a horizon not very far off and they can do something else there. So I would say it's, finding those people is fun. We like those people. Those are people who have big ideas, and generally know how to activate, build a successful, whether it's long-term business or the successful, I don't want to call it a wedge business, but a business for a moment in time, and then they move on to their next idea. Whether it's morphing the existing into the next, or whether it's setting that one to sale and starting from scratch again.
Yeah. Speaking of horizons, a lot of times you'll see the billboard of something on the horizon. You were involved in an Ohio 4.0 billboard idea.
Yes.
We're going to talk about that, though, when we come back from break. I've got Jill Meyer here, who is the Chief Operating and Relationships Officer for the Ohio Fund. More from Jill when we come back. You're watching The Working Lunch on The Crown. Stick around.
We've been growing since 1946. As your Kubota dealer, our focus is to help you grow today and into the future. Stop by one of our locations today, visit with our folks, and see our entire lineup of Kubota products.
Our business is helping you grow. Bachelor Tractor.
Okay, who are you? Well, you have a First State Bank checking account, so you'll be getting cash back whenever you use it.
Oh. Open a checking account at First State Bank for cash back. First State Bank, built on belief.
How did you get in here?
Every morning, Cincinnati wakes up and gets to work. Companies are built, deals are made, restaurants open, ideas become careers, and every day the people behind it all sit down at the working lunch. Founders, CEOs, entrepreneurs, community leaders, the people building Cincinnati. The Working Lunch with Jack Crumley, weekdays, noon to 1, only on The Crown.
On the radio here in Cincinnati.
Cincinnati has always felt like home.
Right here on the Crown Network.
Out and about in Cincinnati, bringing you the stories that you need to hear in the Queen City.
Welcome back to the Working Lunch. I'm Jack Crumley. I am joined by Jill Meyer, who is the Chief Operating and Relationships Officer for the Ohio Fund, a private fund of about, $500 million or so that invests in companies and ideas that are here in Ohio.
Yeah, we're a private fund advisor, and we've raised north of $600 million to invest in Ohio companies and projects.
Congratulations. That's really
Thank
wonderful. We were teasing out just before we went to break about the Ohio 4.0 campaign. What is that exactly?
The Ohio 4.0. I'm so glad you brought this up. This is in the month of July. Hopefully, some folks saw the billboards that said Ohio 4.0 has just dropped, or something like that. And when you scanned a QR code, it took you to a video, which is still there at ohio4-0.com. But this was our. It sprung from a conversation we were having internally, where we were just thinking out loud about all of the cool things we're learning about Ohio and how well things are going, and how do you get more people in Ohio understanding how much is actually happening in Ohio? Because if it's not happening in their front yard, they probably aren't paying too much attention to it. And so that evolved into this video where the essence of it is to capture Ohio's history and future. So 4.0 means 1.0 was farming.
Gotcha. 2.0
was factories. 3.0, which is when a lot of the manufacturing left, was us figuring it out.
Okay.
And now our take is we've moved on to 4.0, which is the future. And so the real tease of it all was getting people understanding that mindset, understanding how much is actually happening here right now from a business build perspective, but then putting the question to people to say, what are you going to do? So we're all Ohioans. It's not one group of people over here making cool stuff happen. Like, if we're going to move into 4.0 and really be the Ohio of the future, which is booming economically, this requires everybody to lean in. Yeah. So it ended with the question of, what are you going to do? And I would tell you, we're still playing with what we might do with that going forward, but something that we had fun with, and I think we will keep having fun, because it's not us out there fundraising or looking for companies. It's us trying to get the rest of the state to understand there are some really great things happening, and everybody needs to lean in some way to make it reality.
Yeah, I got to tell you, that means a lot to me, too. That's a founding principle of what this show really is to let people know about things that companies and nonprofits are doing in this city that they may not know about.
Correct.
Really cool ideas, innovation, growth. And there's a lot of that going on here. There's a lot of that going on in Ohio. And just trying to let people know about that sometimes can be a real struggle. And the idea of wanting to empower people into being a part of it and betting on this state and keeping talent here.
Yes, and it goes along with the any idea is a good idea. So if you're in Cincinnati, we've said this all the time. If you're in Cincinnati and you have an idea, you're going to figure out a way to get it done, because guess what? I'm going to be introduced to you over a cup of coffee, and if I think it's a great idea, I'm going to go tell somebody, and they're going to tell somebody. So that's true actually around the state. So we're trying to get more people to lean in and have some ideas and try them out.
Yeah, absolutely. You started out in law, right? Did you go to College of Mount St. Joe? In terms of being local and keeping talent here.
I'm as local a girl as you're going to get, Jack. I went to Mount St. Joe for undergrad, and then I went to Chase Law School for my law degree.
So you initially were looking to be a lawyer.
Yeah, I was a lawyer.
Yeah, well, and growing up, and this is what I'm going to school for, this is what I'm going to do.
Yes, when I was a kid, I was going to be a lawyer. I thought when I started law school that I would become an FBI agent.
Cool.
I got distracted by other things that I enjoyed in the law, like being a litigator. I graduated from law school and joined what was then called Frost & Jacobs, which is then became Frost Brown Todd and is now FBT Gibbons, as the world changes, right? But I practiced law for 20 years.
Yeah.
Before I left and went to run the chamber.
And then you went to the chamber. What was I'm so interested when people make changes in their life like this, talking about being a lawyer and working actively with a law firm as long as you were, and then what was the motivation to go over and become the president and CEO of the regional chamber for a while?
The motivation was, so in my role when I was at the firm, I was the managing partner of the Cincinnati office. So from that lens, I was widely engaged in business building, all of the different organizations, to make certain that we have a thriving business community.
Yeah.
We were at a moment in time, it was middle of 2015, where it was time for Cincinnati to step up a little bit differently. And after conversations with a number of CEOs in town, it was put to me this way: which was probably the hook that got me. A CEO said to me, Cincinnati's has done fine without real strategy or collaboration on the economic and business build front.
Okay.
We're not going to continue to grow and be okay if we don't get hold of this. So we need somebody to come in, build a strategy, figure out how to collaborate, and really map out and execute on how are we going to grow our economics going forward. And that kind of an opportunity for a Cincinnati girl who loves the place and was always looking for ways to sell it and to make it grow, it became almost a conscious thing. Like, I can't not do this. It's an opportunity. It was a real honor. But to step into that role, to see if we could look at things a little bit differently and make some things go.
What an interesting challenge, because if you're talking around 2015, that would have been, once we had seen the transformation of Over the Rhine really take root. The Banks project was, I think, the phase one of all that was largely done. There's been a lot of talk now with the new Banks work that's being proposed of having a more clear vision. So I'm not sure if that time you're talking about was born out of phase one of the Banks, but what a time to, we've accomplished all this, and now we need somebody to take us to the next level, take us to the next chapter. That's an interesting time to get into the driver's seat.
I tell people all the time that job, the CEO of the Cincinnati Chamber, is the best job on the planet, and I sometimes pinch myself that I got to do it for as long as I did. This community has been built by business people. That defines our culture. That defines everything that we have here and the way that we go about things. And so it's really critically important to make sure we're being thoughtful about how we're going to build that as a community going forward. Because as a bunch of business people, you also have the tendency that you have lots of people who have really good ideas and ways to get them done. And so finding a way to pull together maybe competing ideas or not perfectly aligned ideas to get to a single, what are we aiming for here, was an absolute treat. We referred to it as the future city. How do we build our future city? And so that really defined, I think, the way that when I was there, the way that I and our team looked at what we were trying to make happen.
Boy, and what an interesting challenge too, because if you're the head of the chamber, this is the unifying, we're all together in a group. This is all Team Cincinnati, so to speak. And then being able to, talk about relationship building, handling different personalities and different ideas. And if you're at the helm of that, what a wild challenge that must have been sometimes.
We have a few personalities in town, Jack.
There's a couple.
Again, the beauty of Cincinnati is that the folks who are here care about Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And so I'll tell you one quick story that I think personifies it. When COVID happened and we all thought it was going to be a couple of months that we were home, we very quickly sprung into action and said, well, okay, we need to figure out a way to keep the smaller businesses going. And so I think it was a Thursday when the word came down from the State House or from the governor that we couldn't go back to the offices maybe the following Monday. In less than a week, we were able to pull together a task force that we called the Restart Task Force that was made up of the most prominent CEOs across the city who, in the midst of COVID and trying to keep their companies on board, raised their hands to say, we will come to the table to help just craft and troubleshoot to make certain that the rest of the community can get through this crisis. Our colleagues in other cities were aghast. Like, how did you get, David Taylor was then the CEO of P&G. How did you get David Taylor to do this? Like, we asked him, and he said yes. And that happened over and over again with lots of CEOs, and that's just how this town works.
Yeah, and you're in touch at that time with other maybe chamber leaders or business leaders in other cities, that trying to make sure that people here understand how unique this city is when it comes to those relationships. That doesn't happen in other places.
Well, it didn't happen in other places, and the fact that we pulled it off in less than a week after the announcements, our phones rang for months. Like, we need to come back to figure out how you guys did that. But I told them all, you can't unless you have the culture that we have here, and we're blessed.
So you ran the chamber until what, 2020?
May of 23.
23.
Yeah.
So then that was then when things pivoted into the Ohio Fund?
Well, and I had announced a bit earlier that I was going to step away from the chamber and told everybody then I'm taking 6 months to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. But I knew I wanted to get back into private business. And so I left in May and spent some time kicking around a variety of different options and opportunities, and landed on partnering with these guys, really because it brings together something I learned that I loved at the Chamber, which is placemaking and the economics you can drive if you focus on place. It's creating private business and then some. Strategy, I can wrap my brain around that, but at the end of the day, I also wanted to learn something new.
Cool.
And so expanding around the state, I've never worked for a private fund advisor, so I've been drinking from a fire hose from the get-go, and happily so.
Yeah, I bet. Are you just, when people find out what you do, or is your inbox full up all the time from people trying to pitch you on ideas?
At the Ohio Fund?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. It did not take long for companies and founders to find out that there was a source of growth capital in Ohio, focused on Ohio. And what's been really kind of cool is the number of founders or business leaders who came to us and said, we really want Ohio investors in our company, because we've gone, maybe they're here in their growth, maybe they're here, but their growth capital has largely come from the coasts.
Yeah,
and money's money, but it makes them happier too to know that their investors are their neighbors and the returns are going to stay in the state.
What do you think, because you are such a local gal and you've been so involved in the bones of the economy of this area and getting more familiar with your colleagues around the state, what's something that people, you think, miss about Cincinnati or Ohio writ large?
Oh gosh, I'm going to sum up a lot of opinions into one, which is stop apologizing for being in the Midwest, for being in Ohio, for being in Cincinnati. Like, what is happening here on a across the board basis? The businesses that are being built, the talent that is finding their way here or staying here is world class. There are global leaders in our community. There are cutting edge ideas. There are things happening. We just talked about 1872. That's not happening anywhere else. It's happening here. So people need to step it up and be really proud and maybe dig in a little bit to see some of the innovation that's happening.
Yeah. Do you think cynicism plays a role in a lot of that? Feeling like, oh, it's not big elite coastal stuff, and just wanting to have a knee-jerk reaction of being down on things?
Sure, or because that's the narrative that has been told, or because for the last X number of years, a lot of manufacturing has left the country, and that has defined Cincinnati and, frankly, Ohio for a long time. But it's a new day, and I think if, what we're seeing it every day, but it's because we're out there in it and looking for it. So people who are not out there seeing it and looking for it, I hope that they do.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a huge part of what you guys are doing. So in terms of thinking down the road, what is maybe next? Is there an industry? Is there a sector? Is there a company that's on the horizon for you that you're excited about?
I'll tell you two answers to that. So what we're excited about because of what we're seeing and because of what we know is the amount of either reshoring or onshoring, so companies moving from abroad to the United States. Ohio's getting more than its fair share of looks by those companies, and that's going to be very good for everybody. We've already invested in some of those types of companies, and we are continuing to see more. So that is a lot of manufacturing and advanced manufacturing. It's what we know. It's what we're good at. We have the built environment. We have the talent. So that's a really happy win. We have the space for it. The other thing that I would say is AI. We are embracing all things AI and the impacts that can have on businesses, but also on the first and foremost on the humans who are building those businesses. So we look at the AI opportunity as not coming in to replace Ohioans. It's how can we make Ohioans the most productive, successful people, regardless of what their role is on the planet. And so seeing a lot of the AI adjacencies and implementation in real time as it's really starting to grow right now is pretty exciting.
Yeah, okay. So that's what you've got on the horizon.
Yeah.
Jill, I really want to appreciate you coming on the show. It's been a real pleasure talking to you.
Well, thank you for having me, Jack.
Jill Meyer is the Chief Operating and Relationships Officer for the Ohio Fund, private investment, building companies, businesses, ideas, products that are here. And betting on the future here. I think it's a really wonderful, public-facing message you guys are doing.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to share it even more broadly.
The Crown has you covered. Start your day with First Word, Cincinnati's only morning sports show. Power through midday with the Working Lunch, Cincinnati business talk that keeps you in the know. Nat tries that for lifestyle around the city, and the Rebound Rundown covers every corner of the college basketball scene in the tri-state and beyond. This is The Crown. First Word for your morning sports, Nat tries that for lifestyle around the city, the Working Lunch for business that hits home, and Rebound Rundown for college hoops. This city deserves its crown. Watch, listen, subscribe.
Cincinnati sports fans are the best. Loyal, passionate, second to none. This city lives and breathes sports, and now it finally has a morning show to match. I'm James Rapine, and this is First Word, the only morning sports show in Cincinnati and the place where every day starts. We break down the biggest moments and set the agenda for the city. Marissa Contepelli and Jacob Tissett join me to bring the insight and energy you need to start your day. The conversation starts with First Word. First Word, weekdays 7 to 11, part of the Crown Network.
Our beliefs matter. They're reflected in our words and actions. At First State Bank, we believe in treating people well, and have since 1884. Listening, caring, looking out for each other. It's what people deserve. It's what a real local bank does. While lots of things have changed over the years, our belief in you hasn't. First State Bank, built on belief.
On the radio here in Cincinnati.
Cincinnati has always felt like home.
Right here on the Crown Network.
Out and about in Cincinnati, bringing you the stories that you need to hear in the Queen City.
Welcome back to the Working Lunch. Glad to have you coming along here. Boy, that was a nice interview with Jill. Really enjoyed talking to her about that stuff. Hey, this is the Crown Network, and we are rolling right along. Do have a little bit of a programming note for you coming up for tomorrow, talking about startups and people beginning their own businesses. A woman runs an outfit called Best Side Cookies is going to be my guest tomorrow. And you know, I say we try to squeeze in something to eat or something to drink before the show ends. And guess what? It's happening tomorrow, so I'm excited. It'll be cookie time tomorrow. Rodney's excited as well. Glad about that. Now, that is a person who started their own business and is working to build things for herself. Should be a nice way to close out the week. Programming note here for other programs we have here on The Crown. Paul Fritchner, of course, is the host of the Rebound Rundown. He's got a great interview with Travis Steele, the coach of the Miami Redhawks men's basketball team, talking all things college basketball in the run-up to that season getting going in the not-too-distant future. We also, if you watched First Word this morning, James Rapine was out at the Bengals joint practice with Da Bears. We'll have more from him on that tomorrow morning. First Word gets started at 7 a.m. here on The Crown. You saw some of those other shows that we have, certainly Natalie Jones. Nat tries that, trying out golfing, I believe, right? Yeah, fun little golf video. The Nat Jones Show with some exclusive interviews with people creating culture here in the city of Cincinnati. And again, Paul Fritchner, Rebound Rundown, brand new interview with Travis Steele. If you care about college basketball in this town, and who doesn't, that's going to be an important thing for you to listen to. Hey, I'd like to thank you for listening, maybe watching me. It's been a fun show this week. We've had a really nice time. Again, my thanks to Jill Meyer of the Ohio Fund, some people that are really putting money where their mouth is. We got to go. We're back at noon tomorrow. Thanks for watching.